The story starts with the so-called First Judgment Day. Then legions of creatures spilled out of the Earth's depths and ordinary minds. Millions of people were killed and cities were devastated. With these creatures, a serious battle started and they were eventually vanquished. Protective structures were installed on the location of the previous wells. Gates are meant to keep individuals safe from repeated incursions. It's been 15 years. The globe was able to recover somewhat from the disaster. Laura is one among those who were fortunate enough to survive. She is employed at the school. She has a persistent but unsuccessful boyfriend named Milton, with whom she declines dates on a regular basis. This is most likely due to bitterness for her ex-husband Dave. He was not with Laura on the Day of Judgment, and she had to live on her own since she was pregnant. Dave and Laura have a 15-year-old son named Tyler. He spends the whole day at the skate park with his pals and girlfriend, Maddie. In his leisure time, he enjoys computer games and serves as a bargaining chip in his father and mother's troubled relationship, which ended shortly after his birth. Meanwhile, things are heating up. An eclipse is coming, which might signal the start of a monster invasion. Furthermore, seismic activity has risen, and emergency inspections are being conducted by Protective Dome staff. There is terrible news on television. The extinction of fish started everywhere. The same event occurred the day before the first day of judgment. Another warning indication is migration. Everything is the same as it was 15 years ago. Tyler is visiting his father's house for the weekend when his phone rings. Dave receives a phone call from an old friend named Ted. He is certain that the next Judgment Day will take place tomorrow. He urges that Dave bring the family to his refuge before the eclipse. Meanwhile, the first creature emerges under the protective dome, creeping up the steps silently. Laura calls Dave at this point. She, too, has seen the news and insists that Dave return Tyler home. Milton has booked a shelter, and she is certain that it is the only way to rescue them. Dave tells her that he is Tyler's father and that Tyler would be secure with him. Tyler gets a text message, reads it, and silently exits the home as his father speaks. Laura is in a panic. Dave's home is not safe, and he has to get Tyler to her right now. Dave agrees. He enters Tyler's room, but he is not there. Milton goes over to Laura. The refuge is quickly filling up, so they must act quickly. She says that she is unable to locate Tyler. Milton finds him at the skate park using his phone number. Tyler is really present with Maddie. She is worried since her parents had left her alone. She is terrified and begs Tyler not to abandon her. Tyler swears he would never do what his father did. He will not abandon Maddie. A bird call is suddenly heard. Massive flocks of birds travel in a single direction. People in the park flee in terror. Everyone has left town. Dave travels to the park in search of Tyler. He is stuck in traffic and hurries to find his kid, leaving the vehicle behind. At this time, the worker is checking the instruments beneath the dome. There's a rustling and some odd noises. A monster emerges. It surges forward, tearing the worker apart. The troops who are positioned nearby fire at it. However, normal bullets have no effect on it. Tyler and Maddie are shocked by the prevailing panic. Dave rushes in. Tyler explains to his father that Maddie has nowhere to go and that he couldn't abandon her. Laura arrives with Milton and drives everyone to the shelter, where seats are reserved. The eclipse will begin in slightly over an hour. The city is in full disarray. People are attempting to flee, and traffic jams are everywhere. They eventually make it to the bunker. However, it is sealed off by the military, and only women and children are permitted to enter. Dave tells Tyler to look after his mother and sends them to the shelter. She and Milton stay in the crowd. Tyler heads to the shelter, but immediately runs to his father. Laura and Maddie pursue him. Tyler cries, "He is my father, and I will not leave him." At this point, the update shows that the shelter is entirely full. There are no more spaces available. They dash to the car without spending any time. Dave proposes to go to Ted's desert shelter, but Milton suggests sheltering at the neighboring school, which has a basement. Another traffic jam had started, with hundreds of vehicles blocking the route. They exit the car. An earthquake strikes, and the solar disk is obscured by a shadow. The eclipse has arrived. The creatures emerge from behind the protective dome. Their hordes, crawling and flying, surround the city. Dave considers fleeing the city. It's far more risky here. He wants to drive himself, but Milton objects. This is his car, and he knows just how to rescue everyone. They're arguing with Dave, but suddenly a winged creature grabs Milton and lifts him into the sky. Laura yells anguishedly. Dave stuffs her into the car, and they attempt to flee this hell. They are driving along the canal. Dave tells the kids that everything is all right. We will escape. The car's petrol tank is almost empty. Dave is looking for a solution. There are numerous automobiles ahead. Dave climbs into one of the car. In the back seat, an old guy hid. He glances at a huge bloody monster that looks like the skeleton of a bull. He's almost there. The bull walks right past the car and starts chewing on the laying corpse. Dave drives the vehicle back to Laura and the kids silently. Both cars are now placed side by side, but they must make their way to a new one. Meanwhile, the bull became aware of them. The stranger then gets out of the vehicle and sprinkles the bull with salt from the container in his hands. The bull stopped, and Laura and the children successfully reached to Dave's vehicle. The bull then charges at the man, tearing him to bits. However, Dave is able to drive away from there. Hordes of monsters attack the city from every direction. Dave is driving along an abandoned mountain road. They make their way up to Ted's hideaway. It is very strong and resembles a concrete bunker. The roof has cameras, but no one responds when they knock. The doors are shut. Ted is seated behind the monitor with a revolver around his neck and someone standing behind him. A horde of monsters runs down the mountain. They dash to the nearest shelter. In an effort to defend his family, Dave grabs a tire iron. But at the last second, the bunker's doors open and they dash inside it. Dave gives Ted a warm embrace. Stella, his wife, is also in the bunker, and there's a military guy in the corner, Corporal Garrett Jensen. Ted introduces him as his acquaintance. The monitors show the creatures attempting to slam the door. Everyone is scared, and Garrett remains silent. Maddie inquires as to how the monsters see them. Are they able to see through the walls? Garrett grins. They are sensitive to light and heat, but I believe they can see our soul. They are the devil's progeny, which implies God as well. They torment the body while feeding on the spirit. Are you spiritual or corporal? Laura inquires. Yes, he says today. He claims to have worked in a refinery on the first Judgment Day. When the monsters flooded in, he managed to dive into a salty mud pond where they were terrified to approach. He sat in the mud and watched as the creatures slaughtered 150 of his co-workers and friends. Garrett is so interested in his narrative that he misses Ted indicating Dave to touch the knife. Dave understands and takes the knife silently. That is why it is referred to as Judgment Day. Garrett says, on this day, the devil is in charge. At this point, a centipede-like creature creeps from the street through a tiny hole in the mesh covering the window. Garrett says he'll be first on the job. Ted asks them to join as well and gives Dave a thoughtful look. Garrett then removes the gun from its holster, forcing Dave to put down the knife. Garrett tells that he looked for a place to hide and discovered this one. Stella was kind enough to allow him in, despite Ted's objections. He survived the first time, and he will survive again, no matter what. Tyler charges at Garrett. He attempts to grab his gun away from him. Garrett, on the other hand, tosses him away. The soldier is consoled by Dave. A centipede-like creature bursts out of the wall towards Stella at this time. Ted takes it off his wife's neck and pours salt on it while standing next to her. Dave takes Garrett's rifle and fires it. Other creatures emerge, but they manage to defeat them. They bind Garrett and attempt to block Stella's blood flow. Then Dave sees help arrive for the creatures in the form of a massive bull. He knows that they are doomed. They must escape from the bunker. The bull is attempting to break down the doors. Ted refuses to go out. He claims that his wife will perish outdoors. Stella, on the other hand, requests that he accompany everyone. Under the bunker, there is an underground route that goes to the mountains. Garrett persuades him to accompany him. He has a full tank of gas and can drive everyone to the gate. There are bunkers where the beasts emerge. They will not return. They don't trust him, but he claims that he was just trying to survive, and that now it is in his best interests to assist them. They make the decision to leave. We'll forget about everything if you get us there, Dave assures Garrett. They equip themselves. Ted has a vast array of weaponry. The bull is increasingly pounding on the doors, but they are able to escape and enter the tunnel. Stella falls unwell as they walk to the car. Dave and Laura start arguing. She chastises him for not being at the shelter right now. Tyler then notices a creature on the roadside. It's no longer alive. Maddie goes up to it. The monster's lengthy tentacles sprout from a hole in the earth and wrap around her legs, attempting to pull her away. Maddie cries as Tyler and Dave come to her help. Dave cuts the cords on his hands when Garrett offers his help. They climb to the peak of the mountain. They witness a city in ruins and on fire. They go down to the car, but it refuses to start. Monsters emerge on the mountain's crest and charge straight towards them. Stella observes the horde of monsters while Garrett struggles to start the vehicle. Then she looked at her husband's pistol. She pulls out her pistol and exits the car. Ted urges her to give up the pistol. Stella, on the other hand, turns aside and heads to the monsters. She knows that she is doomed. Ted calls her and sobs, but Dave pushes him into the car. They escape at the last possible minute. Large crowd of creatures pursue them. They pick up a radio signal on the way. They report that nearly all of the bunkers were destroyed since they were unable to survive the attack. Laura places her hand on Dave's shoulder as he strokes her. They approach the gate. The room is vacant, but the doors are open. Garrett claims that the hideaway is located in the basement. They're on their way, but the electricity must be restored first. Garrett and Dave decide to go forward with it. The others proceed in search of the first aid station. Ted is suffering from a back injury. Dave turns on the power. According to Garrett, the gate was ready for a second invasion. Tons of salt were put into the well, but it was too deep. They walk to the others, but suddenly they hear beasts growl and find a bloodied body. There are 2 hours till the eclipse ends. Garrett suggests hiding in a chemical factory. The doors are unbreakable there. Garrett is suddenly attacked by a monster. They are able to handle it with Dave's help. However, the remainder of the creatures run in response to the sound. Garrett dashes into a door and shuts it behind him. He injects himself with something. His veins have swelled and become black. Dave arrives to his family and requests that Tyler keep his mother safe while he is abroad. He plans to level the playing field and keep the monsters at away by funneling salt water via the tank pipes. Laura kisses Dave and urges him to be careful. Dave walks through the vents and observes the monster devouring the prey. Dave must turn on the water near the eating monster. He manages to turn on the water. Containers are used to collect water. Dave climbs back, but the monster hears this and charges after him. Dave strikes back by sprinkling salt on it, and the monster falls to dust. Meanwhile, the others had been pursued and encircled by creatures. Tyler fires back. Then Dave's voice comes over the speakers. He begs that the fire alarm be activated. The beasts have encircled them. They're getting closer. Protect the family, son. Ted orders Tyler and goes at the creatures with an axe. Several creatures pounce on him at the same time. Tyler fires back. Ted, bloodied, attempts to fight back. Tyler runs out of ammo. He activates the fire alarm. Salt water sprays from every direction. They scream in pain as they fall on the creatures, who crumble into bloody dust. They are saved, but Ted is no longer alive. The eclipse is over. All monsters return through the rear gate. Laura's children rush out to a nearby place. Garrett has a pistol in his hand. Tyler is shot by him. It's no longer our planet. In any case, he won't live. God had a day off, he argues, and aims once more. Dave rushes in and smacks Garrett across the face with a fire extinguisher. Garrett collapses to the ground. Dave charges toward Tyler and Laura. A massive creature emerges from below. It leaps towards Garrett, who is getting closer, and eats him whole. They rush inside the medical unit and fill a cylinder with a salty liquid. The monster is approaching. It kicks down the doors, but Dave manages to hit him with a canister of concoction. The creature roars fiercely as it bursts, and then disintegrates into ash. Laura embraces Dave. They do not think they have been saved. Both couples embrace and go outside. The planet has been wrecked, but the monsters have left. Perhaps this is another respite. One thing is certain, life will be renewed, and light will always triumph over darkness.